It's okay, it's okay. Right, morning.
Morning.
Right, I do understand that there's a huge, what I call booking outside. There's a huge crowd outside, so sometimes it's not easy to find a way into the room. But because it's now close to 8:15, so I don't want to hold anything back any longer. So my name is CJ, and what we do is we help companies to achieve better results through people. So that's generally what we do. And main focus is we look at leaders, we look at managers, we look at middle level people on how they can be more effective, how they can actually delegate better, execute better, work as a team across different departments better. So that's one part of it. The second part of what we do has to do with the topic today, sales. And since we do things on sales training, so the ongoing concern that we get from our customers is always about how we can actually get better results from sales training. Now, just to do a raw poll, how many of us here are in charge of sales training in your company? 负责销售培训，在公司里面负责销售培训。What are the rest doing here? Right. Okay. So the normal complaint that we get is that there are some expectations of the sales training, and then when the training is done, nothing happens. Okay. So that's the ongoing, regurgitating, recurring concern that a lot of people are having. So. So we want to look into some of the key issues here, and what are the things that we can actually do to improve this whole situation. So why sales training or why sales? And this is just to steal something from Sun's article. Now, sales basically it's the lifeblood of company in a matter of life and death, in a way. Survival, extinction, and indeed something that needs to be studied and applied and remodified. So it's not just, if you're looking at sales training, it's not just the training. Sometimes it's about how you conduct sales. Are you targeting the right customers? Are you pitching the right products? Do you have the right price point? Are you having the right sales methodologies and so on? And that goes in the whole thing. And sales training is just one part of it. Right? So that's one thing. The other thing is that, and this is research from a company called Halfway. 87% of what is learned in a sales training session, in fact, 87% of whatever is learned in any training session will be lost after 1 month. So 1 month from today, you are going to forget about 87% of what happened this morning. We did this way, kids. Right. So what is that a good thing or a bad thing? You got 87% loss of memory after 1 month. Is that good or is that bad? It really, in a way, it's bad because the company invests in time, invests in money, getting people to training, and then in terms of if this is an asset, right? In terms of asset depreciation, it's like 87% depreciation in a month. It's really bad in a sense. On the other hand, if you remember 13% after a month, and you apply it, and after you apply, you actually get better results from sales, it's not so bad. Right? So it's not so much about how much you remember, it's about how much you use that is useful to you. Right? So it really depends on how you look at it. And the truth be known is that whatever you do in training, no matter how well you customize in a sales training, can have case studies that are based on real life cases of what the salespeople are facing, what the sales managers are complaining, and this is something that we do. We interview salespeople and interviewing sales managers to create really realistic cases that we can do role plays and discussions and everything else. These are some of the things that we do. Even when we have a lot of customization, not everything can be practical or usable to the salespeople. And eventually, the salespeople will have to decide what is useful, what is going to solve the day-to-day challenges, what is going to be able to enable them to take care of customers， 有什么是让他们能够搞定客户的那些主要的工具。Right? So whatever is useful, they'll use it, and whatever that is not useful, they don't have to use it. Right? In a training, what we do is just to say, hey, if you have this situation, there are different ways that you can approach it. And to different people and different situations, they may choose a certain way that they can approach it. So some of that may constitute to that 87%. It may not be as relevant to their work. Some of that could be that a training was not well structured, it's not so useful, and as a result, they don't use it. Some of that 87% is, it is useful, it is a good tool. But when we learn a new skill, like, just again, another poll. How many of us here is able to ride a bicycle? Okay. Something that we all do. Right, so when we ride bicycles, when we are really young, when we first jump on a bicycle, are we able to ride well, or do we tend to fall? Yeah, kind of wobbly to the fall, right? So, like in any skill, whether it's driving, riding a bicycle, swimming, any skill, including sales, any skill that you try for the first couple of times, it's not going to go very smoothly. So whatever you learn in a training we do role plays, but role plays you're still dealing with either your colleagues, the trainer, whoever it is. People tend to be kinder to you, and most of the time, even if you were to not do very well in your role play, 就算你那个演练不是做得非常好， right? Usually we allow you to fail, right? It's not a big deal. But if you want to try those new skills live on a real customer, then it's a different story, right? And have this new skill you try on a real customer, and for the first couple of times it does not work as well. Sometimes the salespeople just give up. Right? It's a good skill. It looks nice in training. It sounds logical, but when they try to use it, they hit a wall. It's not as easy as they thought it is, and then they'll think that, oh, maybe this does not apply to my customer. And if there's no one else to monitor it, to guide them along, to give them some tips on how they can tweak it and make things a little bit better, then they're going to give it up, and they're going to forget about it. So that constitutes to that 87% as well. So there are different reasons. And what we want to do today is just to look into what are some of the things that we can actually do to get better results out of the sales training. And some of the things are easy, some of the things require a bit more thinking, some of the things require us to do a little bit more work. And the challenge is this. Normally, whether you are from a sales department, or you're from a training department or HR department, how many people do you have in the typical training department? 一般培训部里面有多少人？ Well, if you have a team of 5 people in the training department, that is a huge training department. Right? Sometimes it's one person doing like for 500 people, right? We've got 1,000 people, maybe 2 persons. So really, I mean, again, this is some of the things that in a way may may appear to be overly idealistic. So what we're going to do is just to say, okay, if you have an ideal situation, what you can do. And if you don't have an ideal situation, what else you can do so that you can have some kind of a compromise. Right, so this is some things we'll share. So the 3 parts. Now, why you need to align your business goals to your sales training. A lot of times, the sales training that has been in place for the last 10 years and nothing has changed for the training, but the business have changed a lot. Right? So we need to make sure that the training is relevant to the business goals. Number 2, how do you then identify the behaviors that need to be improved through training or coaching? So it's not just about the training itself. We need to find out what are some of the behaviors that need to be changed. Now in sales, normally, why do we have sales training? 一般上我们为什么要做销售培训 ？Increase sales, right? The whole idea is when we want to have sales training, we would like to see sales figures increase. But how do we then? What are the various steps to allow us to go from sales training to increase in sales? Does it mean that you go for sales training and then sales increase? Not really. Increase in sales is a result. It's a result we want, but nevertheless, it's a result. And what it means is that you need to have different steps, different processes, different procedures, different ways of doing things that lead you to a result. So the key thing is that if you find that sales is not really doing well, is it because we are not calling enough new customers? Is it because our old customers are not buying enough from us, or they are squeezing us for price? Is it because that our salespeople are bad in terms of price negotiations? Is it because we are not able to sell a high-end, higher profit margin products? And the list goes on and on. So the key thing is, yes, in a way, when we do sales training, we would like to see increase in sales. That's perfectly all right. The next question is, if we want to have an increase in sales, where will be our weak points in our sales processes? And this is where, this is usually where there is a miscommunication between training, the training manager and the sales director. The sales director will say, our sales is not doing well. They'll tell the training manager, we need sales training. That's it, nothing else, right? And then the training manager says, okay, we need sales training. Let's go look for different sales programs. Without finding out from the sales director, and sometimes sales director doesn't really have the time or the patience to tell, you know what, if we have poor sales, the main reasons are whatever. And sometimes it's also up to the training company to just give a very simple survey. I mean, the survey is not to ask salespeople what you want to learn. It's no use. Salespeople will give a list of things that may be very wrong or maybe irrelevant. You want to do a survey is to ask salespeople, what are the key challenges you face when doing sales? What are some of the typical key customer objections? Typically, how many new customers do you approach in a month or in a quarter? And so on. So it's just to give, it's just allow the trainer or training company to have an idea what could be some of the challenges that are faced by salespeople. Right? We don't ask people what you want to learn or what you want to be trained in or what training programs you want to attend. We want to ask people what are some of the key things that you think can be done better or you need help or you need improvement on. And then we design a training program based on that. Right? So that's a little bit different. It's the same thing as if you're handling training for everybody else as well. Sometimes we don't encourage training managers to run a survey of what kinds of training you want to do. Because sometimes people don't know what training they want. But people may know what kinds of weaknesses or what kinds of areas they have a problem, they have a challenge, and would like to have those resolved. So it's just a little bit of tweaking and just finding out what kinds of challenges we'd like to help people to overcome. And from there, we'll match into what kind of training programs can help with those challenges. So that's what we mean by can we actually identify the behaviors. And the last question, which will be a bit longer, is about how you actually measure and ensure training effectiveness in different ways. So first thing first, why and how you need to align the business goals to your sales training. Now, before we do that, why do we have training? Let's forget about sales training. Just look at training only. 我们为什么要做培训?
To learn more.
To learn more? Well, to the learner, if you want to learn more, that's you are a very good employee. You are we'll call you a very engaged employee. 高经验员工，想要多学. Right? That's very nice. But from the company's point of view, because it's a company that's paying for the training, right? So why does companies want to provide training for their employees?
Because you have a base and you want to improve.
Yeah, you want to improve, right? And how do you improve?
The skills of the guys.
Not just advice, but basically. The purpose of training to a company is that after the training, we'd like to either change how you think and what you do. And hopefully, the change is for the better. Hopefully, the change is something that will give the company better results. 从公司角度来说，我们说为什么要做培训？无外就是改变你的思想，改变你的行为，希望你新的行为能够给公司带来更好的绩效。Oh, by the way, we'll be sending the PPTs to everybody on a PDF format, so you don't have to take pictures of every slide. Sometimes I thought you are taking my pictures. But we will be sending to everybody to the slides, so don't worry about that. So the whole out of training is just to change mindsets and behaviors for companies, and the change is for the better. The change is hopefully we can have a different behavior, and then it will give us a better result. So that's hold that thought for a while. That's why we train. Now, why some sales training fail? Right? 为什么有些销售就是始终一事无成 Firstly, the training content can be outdated or does not match the current buying practices of customers. You have a sales training program that may be written 10 years, sometimes even 20 years ago, and then you have a totally different business situation today. Now, in the past, there are even sales training to say that every morning you have to make like 20 phone calls, 30 phone calls every morning. In the past, that may be true, and to a certain extent, you will need to reach out to a certain number of new customers or existing customers just to make sure that you are actually out there in the market, and that's true. But for today, sometimes it's not simply phone calls. Sometimes it's you do your little WeChats, 用微信打电话. Right, so that's one part. Sometimes some other trainings say that every week or every day you need to have something like 3 to 4 customer visits every single day. To a certain extent, that's doable, but in different parts of China especially, right? It's not because you don't want to see 3 or 4 customers. It's not because you could not get 3 or 4 appointments in a day. It's because you're stuck in the traffic. 堵车不是我不愿见客户，是我堵在路上，我见不到客户。So those are some of the things that the training needs to be modified and adapted to what is the current situation. So that's one part. Number 2 is we don't have post-training coaching. By the way, who will be the best person to do the post-training coaching after your sales training? 如果我们要做销售培训，在做完销售培训之后，谁最适合做训后的辅导或者是教育
？Sales director.
Sales managers, right? And what happens is a lot of sales managers, the mindset is I've sent my team for training. They have learned, and as a result, they have to implement. Any coaching is the job of the sales trainer. So it's a different mindset, and if you don't have managers engaged in the whole training process, maybe you're not getting enough results for your training. So this is something to think about. There are no measurable improvements. You don't know whether are you able to have some changes in behaviors. Are you able to do something a little bit different from the past? Is there anything you'll be doing differently from a few days from now versus what you do in the past? So some of the things that what we do, very simply put, something that we want to make sure that life goes on easy for the training managers. We want to make sure that we don't overload the training managers' workload, and also at the same time have some level of measurement or improvement. So this is what we do. At the end of training, we'll ask the participants, the trainees, to list down 3 things that they will do differently the next working day. 在培训之后，在做销售培训后，我们让我们学员写下3样事情，他们是会就是跟以往做的不一样。It's a simple exercise. Just we don't have to be a long list of things. We don't have to be very complex. We don't be even to have very ambitious things they have to do differently. And sometimes doing things differently doesn't mean you have to do more things. sometimes doing things differently is to do less things. Certain things that you have done in the past is not effective. Don't do it. Just do one less thing. It can be less things, right? So just write down 3 things that you think you will do differently the next working day. Whether it's a Monday, whether it's tomorrow, doesn't matter. Just do something, 3 things that you do differently. And it doesn't stop there. When you have 3 things that you do differently, you need to write that in an email to your boss. 不仅是写下你有哪3方面的事情你会做的跟以往不一样，而且写下来之后还要就是备份给老板，给销经理。So that there will be some level of monitoring, there will be some level of managing from the boss's point of view. The boss knows that, okay, these are the 3 things that you say you want to do differently. I didn't force you to do it. You say at the end of training session, and there'll be some monitoring. There could also be some guidance from the boss on how you can do those 3 things. Again, it need not be something very ambitious. We don't want to have we don't want to have something to say that I will double or triple my sales next week. No, you don't have to be that. Just that I will when I call customers, I'll make sure that, or when I meet customers, I'll make sure that I ask the questions that I get better responses. Something like this. Or for customers that are really wasting a lot of my time and leading me to nowhere, I will spend less time with them. Right? So it's just small little things that is doable, and you can see some level of changes as you go along. Again, we don't expect total change after the training. We may also be getting the wrong person to do the training. You ask the wrong trainer to do the training. We talk about that in a while towards the last part. It's about selecting the right trainers with the right qualities. And also, sometimes we also get the wrong salesperson to do the wrong sales job. Sometimes we get salespeople who are very good in selling fast-moving consumer goods, 快消品, and ask them to sell industrial products. And sometimes they could not just turn around. And the list goes on. So these are some of the reasons. What are some of the back-end reasons that result into ineffective sales training early? 我们为什么之前会有那些问题呢？因为这边会有背后还有一些原因。These are some of the root causes. Sometimes there is actually insufficient training given to the sales training. How do I mean by insufficient attention? A lot of sales training tends to be haphazard and piecemeal. There is no what I call a sales training plan. There is no roadmap. 没有像系列形成的一个概念。Why do we need to have a roadmap? Well, in sales, there are different components of sales. On the one hand, there is what we call the basic sales training, where it's something like a consultative sales training. 最基础的可能是一种顾问式销售。So what that means is you know how to get appointments from customers, you know how to ask questions, you get a response, how to do simple proposals, how to do simple presentation in front of customers, handle objections, and so on. So this is something that's what we call basic. Right? It's consultative sales training, 问式销售培训. And what goes on from there could be, okay, so you've got a few key customers, and then gradually they become some key accounts or some existing customers. So the next step could be, in a key customer, who are the key influencers? Who are key decision makers? Who are those people who really like you? Who are those people who absolutely hate you? Right? And you need to find out how you can handle the relationship with that key account. So that's one part of training. So that could be the next step. It could also be things like when we have more or less made some sales, then the next step is how do you have better negotiations? Right? And negotiations need not be just on price. It can be part of how you actually study entire sales conversation from the start. So we have model negotiations, and if you proceed along, it can go into presentations. When you go even deeper, in some cases when you need to do bidding, 有些销售需要做竞标. So you can go all the way to bidding management, 竞标管理, right? And so on. So it's a matter of having the kind of mindset as in, okay, what we want, how do we want to have a roadmap to develop the salespeople, assuming they are going to stay with us for a few years. Right? Having a roadmap also doesn't mean that you need to do everything in 1 year. Doesn't mean that you need to send your salespeople to like 4 or 5 different sales training in 1 year. Some companies, they have a roadmap. And it takes a salesperson around 3 to 4 years, or even 5 years to complete the roadmap, because they only send the salesperson to 1 training a year. Right? We're not saying that it's a good thing or a bad thing. Sometimes it's budget constrained. Sometimes it's we cannot afford to get the salespeople out for so many days. So they can only afford to get a salesperson out for 2 days a year for sales training, and the budget is only for 2 days per salesperson for sales training. And they have a roadmap. They go through 3 or 4 or 5 different kinds of sales programs, and it lasts for 3 to 5 years. Now the good thing out of that, the unexpected good thing out of that, 一个意外的一个收获 is that some salespeople actually stayed with that company longer. Because they want to go for a next training, right? And in some cases, this training is company provided. They don't need to pay for it. They like the training, they find it useful, so they find that this training helped me. I want to know what's the next training so I can get better. So instead of staying with the company for only 1 or 2 years, sometimes some of the salespeople will stay for 3 or 4 years. I wouldn't say just because for the training, but the training sometimes will have a psychological impact on the salesperson. Sometimes. And so this is do you have a roadmap on how you develop the salespeople step by step? It doesn't have to be in 1 year, can be a number of years. Sometimes we also have the wrong expectations, like you have a training and then suddenly your salespeople will be transformed. Sometimes this happens in a lot of direct selling company, insurance company, 尤其在直销行业、保险行业。Right? Sometimes it's called they call it motivational training. 俗称叫打鸡血. Right? You go in the room, you get so pumped up, and then go out there and see if you can grow the ball. It may work for some industries, but if you're selling industrial products, does not really help in you really all pumped up and getting the customer to buy now. Right? Because in industrial product selling, customers will have a longer sales cycle. They have a longer time to make decisions. So it's more, you need something that is more rational, more patient, that you can actually follow through with the customer. Sometimes you only focus on service problem areas. Sometimes customers, some of our clients come to us and say that, no, we need sales training because our salespeople are not able to sell at higher prices. They need price negotiations. They need to know how to overcome price objections. And then we found out it's just the surface of a problem. It's not because they cannot overcome price objections. It's because they don't even know the customer's needs. It's because they go to the customer, and the customer feel that you need us much more than we need you. Right? You don't really provide much value for us. We don't really need your products, and unless you give us a really good price, otherwise we don't even want to deal with you. Right? It's how you actually frame the customer's minds when you do the sale. So it may not be just it could be a problem that goes a bit deeper than just a surface problem. And of course, there's a lack of follow through. Sometimes we don't just follow through enough, and we need the help again with our sales managers. So these are some of the issues. So how do we overcome that? Start with the big picture. Number one is, what is your business trying to accomplish this year? Are there any strategic changes this year? Is there a new product that you want to launch this year? Is there a new territory you want to go this year? Is there a different focus? In the past, it could be we got a few key accounts and we're happy with it. Now, because we've got a lot of competition coming in, stealing our new accounts, the market has also expanded. And as a result, we need to shift from selling to existing customers to new customers. Right? Or in the past, in some foreign companies in the past, We only sell high-end products. We go for the high-end. And there are no competition at the high-end. But there are only very limited companies and very limited orders for high-end. So if we want to expand, we need to go one step lower than the high-end. So it's the mid-high-end or the upper middle end of the market. And when you go there, there will be more competition. It's also a different set of customers with different needs. So the sales training somehow needs to address those kinds of changes in your business goals, right? And the second one is it's an extension of the first one. Has your goals, your business goals, has that changed this year compared to last year? Sometimes it's not the goals that are changed. Sometimes it's the people that has been changing. In the past, we've got some salespeople and they're doing well, so they are doing well. This year, we've got some new salespeople who used to be engineers in our company, and then they are being converted to be sales or sales engineers. So it's a bit different. So we don't really go into treat them as just normal salespeople. We may want to do it a little bit differently that is catered to a different group of people. Right? So that's certain changes. And one way of looking at it is just do a SWOT analysis of our sales force. Who needs to be trained? What is the SWOT analysis? And the training department does not need to do that on your own. I mean, if you know the sales force well enough, you can do that. But you can actually ask the sales manager, if you want to do a SWOT analysis of the team, what do you think will be their strengths? What do you think will be their weaknesses? Right? And the difference between SW and ONT is that strengths, weaknesses are internal. So the salespeople, what kind of strengths they have, what kind of weaknesses they have. OT, opportunities and threats, are external. So what kinds of opportunities can they get versus what kind of threats do they face from competitors, from customers, and so on. So this will give you an idea of what kind of sales training you need to do. Conversations like this doesn't need to take a long time. We can even do that informally over lunch with a sales manager and just have an idea. You can even if the sales manager is so busy. The good thing about today is we got the wonderful WeChat, right? So it's send a WeChat. What's your SWOT? And chase them for a response, right? So you can do that. It doesn't really need to take a lot of time and a lot of resources. So the next thing is, how do you identify the behaviors that need to improve through training or coaching? Now, I'm going to give a case here, and this is based on not just one, but two real cases. Exactly the same thing. Training manager is looking for a sales trainer who has experience in the manufacturing industry. What's wrong with this requirement? Training manager looking for a sales trainer with experience in the manufacturing industry. What's wrong with it? Now, when we think about manufacturing industry, what do we think? What kind of companies do we come to mind? Maybe we're talking about materials, maybe we're talking about industrial products. But then again, do you know that a company like Apple is also manufacturing? Because Apple has got plants, they manufacture computers and phones and so on. Apple is manufacturing. Samsung is manufacturing. A lot of consumer products are manufacturing. Right? And when you say you have a sales trainer who has experience in manufacturing, it does not tell you what kind of sales trainer you want. It's not about the manufacturing. It's about the sales trainer either has experience in selling industrial products or even industrial services, or a sales trainer that knows how to sell business to business and not just to retail or to consumers. That should be the key focus, rather than just say manufacturing industry. Right? Again, it shows the lack of knowledge from the training manager. When you are in production, when you do work in manufacturing, yes, if you're a production worker, you work in manufacturing, you know what it is in a manufacturing industry. But on the other hand, when you're a salesperson, when you're facing customers, basically either you're facing business customers or you're facing consumers. Right? It's B2B or B2C. So the key thing is you want to have someone who's facing business. Not only that, if you want to drill it a little bit deeper, you want to have someone, maybe they want to have someone that sells complex industrial solutions to their customers, right? Not just simple spare parts, not just simple commodities. It's an industrial solution that that is customizable, that you really require to have a lot of in-depth communication with the customer. And as a result, you need the sales trainer to really understand the kind of process and do those accordingly, rather than say manufacturing industry. So that's the kind of thing that we need to get a message across, and to really make sure that the training managers understand what's going on with what the sales people are facing. Number two. Sam is a new salesperson and has shown a lot of promise during his initial training with the company. 这个员工很好，员工刚开始做入职培训，表现都很好。Right? When he went on to work, he also put in lots of effort. 投入工作也很努力去工作。Still, after 3 months, there are no results generated. Assuming 3 months is a reasonable period to get a result from a new salesperson, what would you do? Any suggestions?
Compare him against some experienced people.
Sorry?
So compare him against somebody.
Okay, compare with experienced people. See what is lacking, what's good, what's wrong, what else? Any other suggestions?
Talk to his superior.
Sorry?
Talk to his superior.
Okay, so extend another 3 months and see what happens.
He said talk to his superior.
Talk to his
Yeah,
boss.
yeah.
Sometimes some people will say fall in and see what he does with the customer. Maybe he's doing things wrong. One thing that one company did was to send Sam back to training. Right? Send Sam back to a so-called a refresher training. The assumption is that Sam has not learned from the training. As a result, you need to have retraining. But the problem is that Sam has already shown promise in the training. Sam is also very hardworking. It's less got to do with what is in the training. It's got to do that, is the training relevant to Sam's work? Sometimes from a training point of view, if you're looking at training point of view, is to review, are there similar cases to Sam that we see in our salespeople? No, is Sam just a one-off person that happens only once in a while? Maybe that's we hired the wrong person, right? It's just a nice person, hardworking person, diligent person, but somehow just unable to sell our products. So we hire the wrong person. Or is Sam one of the many people that if we send a bunch of people to sales training, half of those end up something like Sam? They are good in sales training, they put effort into their work, and then there's no results. Then maybe the training needs to be reviewed to see that how we can help people like Sam to deliver their results. So it's a matter of looking at things from different points of view, right? This is something that if you're in training management, you probably will be familiar with this term. It's called the Kirkpatrick model. 科氏四级的那个培训绩效的一个模式。Right? This is someone called Kirkpatrick, Don Kirkpatrick, who has come with this idea of how do you actually manage training results. And this is the 4 levels of evaluation that you can get a training result. The first level is the reaction. Every time we do a training, or at the end of training, we have an evaluation form. So that's just a reaction. Do you like the training? Right? So that's just the first level. If you want to go something deeper than that is, have you actually learned something? 第一个层面是你觉得这个培训好吗？第二个层面是你学到了什么？ Now how do we assess learning? And sometimes we suggest to our clients, don't do level 1, do level 2. Right? You get a reaction of, do you like the training or not? In a way, it's good to evaluate the trainer, but it does not do well to evaluate the participants. Have you learned anything? So one thing we do the learning is what we in China likes to, or in Asia likes to do most. We have exams, 考试. Right? Whether it's open book or closed book doesn't matter. Just have some kind of test or exam, and you don't just have exams only at the end of the training. Again, we mentioned that you will forget something like 87% of whatever you learn in 1 month's time. So you have 2 exams. One immediately after the training, what you've learned. One is that you tell everybody, okay, 1 month from now, you're going to have another exam. Right? In a way, that kind of motivates and forces people to kind of do some level of revision that one month later you are going to learn something else. So that's how we make sure that there is some learning. And if you learn something, hopefully the third step are there any changes in the behaviors? And if there are changes in the behaviors, hopefully it will have good results for you, like increase in sales or better prices in negotiations. So that's the 4 levels that we want to evaluate whether a training is effective or not. Now, what we want to do is, these are the 4 levels, and if you want to plan training, it doesn't go into the 4 levels like 1, 2, 3, 4. If you want to plan for a training, the first step to think about, or to get the sales manager to think about, is what kinds of behaviors need to be changed so that you can get a good result. You want to plan for sales training, think about, or any kind of training, think about what kinds of behaviors need to be changed. And then from the behaviors, we think about what kinds of content in the training we need to have so that we can, as much as possible, try to have that kind of new behavior after the training. Right? This is how we want to emphasize. So like I mentioned, you can ask the sales manager or the department manager to just do a simple SWOT analysis. You can ask the person to tell you based on last year's KPI, 员工的那个绩效，绩效管理的绩效， and we will see in the KPI what are strengths and weaknesses of the employees of the department in general, right? Or we can do a simple survey on what are some of the challenges that our supposed trainees face on a day-to-day basis, and they would like to have some skills to overcome those challenges. So these are some of the things that we can do just to go by what are the behaviors that we need to change for those trainees. So this is where we start first. And so in terms of identifying the behavioral gaps, it could be what are salespeople doing that make customers give a negative response? Well, again, even sometimes you can even get feedback from customers. You get the sales managers to do that. What are some of the negative responses from customers? If the eventual objective is to increase sales, what do salespeople need to do that will lead them to a sale? This is the question. Sales is always a result. You will do a series of things that will lead you to the result you want. So if you don't get a result you want, what are some of the things that you think are not in place or did wrongly that lead you to a bad result? Right? What do salespeople need to do that will lead them to a better sale? So this the third one is more or less a continuation of the second one. What are some things that we need a salespeople to do? Do they need to reach out to more people, go out to a new territory, get the old customers buying more, be more assertive when it comes to pricing and new products, and the list goes on. So these are some of the things that sales managers need to think about, or training managers need to think about. What are specifically, which areas are we trying to improve? And later on we'll be saying that your sales training doesn't have to be 2 days. It doesn't have to be 3 days. Sometimes, depending on the kind of situation you have, if you don't need to fly everybody to one spot to do a training, if you are able to get your salespeople come together readily, sometimes you can have 1 or half a day of training just to target on one specific weakness, just so that they change one thing at one time. So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have 2 long days just to try to cover a lot of things. Sometimes by changing one simple thing, you may get a good result, or you may get an improvement already. Right? So these are some of the gaps that we can identify. To the salespeople, now that's saying that the salesperson can calculate their sales commission or the sales bonus faster and more accurate than any supercomputer in the world. 销售人员如果要计算他的那个奖金，比任何的这个超级电脑还要快还要准。So that's they know what is measured and they'll do what is being measured. So do you have incentives or any disincentives for them to change their behavior? Right? If you want them to sell new products, are there any special bonus if they're able to sell enough new products? If they're able to get new customers, are there additional incentives? Whether it's monetary or non-monetary, 奖励未必是那个跟金钱有关，未必是奖金，可能是其他方面的奖励。Right? Can be other kinds of incentives that will kind of push them a little bit so that they change their behavior. What gets measured against them, if there are no incentives, usually they won't do anything, and sometimes we just want to look into how they're being compensated, rewarded and incentivized. Why we mention this is this: some European companies, 欧资企业 European companies, now if the salesperson meet targets, there are no incentives. If the salesperson do not meet targets, there are no punishments. Nothing happened whether they meet targets or not. So which you ask the question, so why do you set targets in the first place? Right? There's nothing to compel the salesperson to meet the target, not even a non-monetary incentive. Right? 连一个就是简单的一个鼓励，未必是奖金都没有。Right? So it's about rethinking. Is there something that help you push the salesperson to change their behavior a little bit and get them to give you better results? So the third thing is, how do you then measure and ensure that the training is effective? For this, there are three parts. One is how to design the right program. Two, how do you get the right trainers? And three, which is how you ensure that whatever is done, you have an ongoing process to make sure that you measure the right thing. So for the first one, in terms of how do you design and develop sales training? 如果你要设计一个良好的一个销售课程，你要考虑哪些方面？ There are a lot of things about 5 or so key things. Right. The first one is, what is the objective of the training in terms of what behaviors you want them to change? 你的这个销售培训的目的是什么？销售培训的目的在于，你希望这些销售人员参加了培训，会有怎样的行为改变，或者你希望他们要做出怎么样的行为改变？ Right. What are some of the key challenges? What are some causes of the key challenges? These are some of the things that we mentioned earlier on. Number two is sometimes we need to observe what is called the positive deviance. Meaning, in our company today, who are the salespeople who are doing well? 我们目前公司里面哪些销售人员是做得很好 ？And if they're doing well, what are some of the things that your top sales are doing that other salespeople are not doing? Is there something that we can learn from our own top salespeople? So if there's something that we can learn from top salespeople, can we put those behaviors into a training program? So there's something they can benchmark with. And we just want to focus on sales process improvements. Is there some little bit? And sometimes what the top sales is doing may be just a little bit different. Now there's another piece of research, just to give an example. There's another piece of research about the difference between a good salesperson and a top salesperson. The good salesperson and top salesperson, usually in terms of selling skills, they are more or less the same. The selling skills level is about the same. The difference is the top salesperson usually will know how to actually do internal coordination with other departments. 优质的销售人员跟顶级的销售人员的区别不在于他们的销售技能，区别在于顶级的销售人员更加能够协调内部不同部门的这个协调工作。Right? Because as a salesperson, you don't just sell on your own. You need to have your company to coordinate with you and give the customer whatever they want. So a top salesperson, not only they can take care of the customer, they also need to take care of their internal people to customize whatever solution the customer wants. So maybe if you want to have better sales, you don't need sales training. You need training on how you actually work well across different departments so that you increase sales. Maybe that's the case. The third one is how you identify what kind of new skills that need to be developed to meet future challenges. Right. So if gathering these two things, what will be the skills, and also by trends, whether it's customer feedback, whether it's market trends, different kind of products, different usages, different kinds of competition, what will be the trends that will make us require new skills? 基于不同的一些趋势，我们是不是需要额外新的一些技能？ These are some things to consider. Fourth thing, build our own case studies. It's great to look at what other companies are doing or other industries are doing, but it's always good to ask the salespeople to come up with some stories they have. Whether it's a successful story or unsuccessful ones, or it's a recurring complaint from a salesperson, recurring difficulty or challenge they face, and give you the feedback so that the trainer can actually put this into a case study that we can role play, we can discuss, we can find ways to overcome them. So that's one case that we came across recently is we got this bunch of salespeople, and they're very smart. They know that if they want to sell their products, it's high-end products, it's complex products, it's expensive products, if they want to sell to the customer's procurement or purchasing manager, 如果这些销售他是直接面对对方的采购经理，they'll end up with a rejection, end of story. So they are smart. What they do is they target the R&D managers of the customer. 他不找采购经理，他找研发部。Go for R&D, and R&D is very receptive. They are willing to co-develop new products based on this salesperson's ingredients or materials. So they work together closely with R&D and come up with a new product. So that part is great. But the problem is that when the customer's customer starts selling, or when the customer starts selling the new product to their customer, as into the customer's customer, what happens is the customer's customer say that your new product is great, but it's too expensive. And as a result, they're not buying from you. And so you got the seller, you got the customer, and you got the customer's customer. The customer's customer feedback to the customer saying that your new R&D product is great, we love it, but too expensive to go on. Right? And as a result, the customer is not able to buy from the seller. Right? So on the one hand, it's good to talk to customers R&D. On the other hand, there may be a problem with the customer's customer, or there may be a problem with the customer's salespeople that they do not know how to sell a new product to the end customer. So that could be an issue to the salesperson, and we need to address those issues, and it can be done in a case study in training. So these are some of the feedback we get, and some of the things that we can actually infuse into a sales training. Right, make it convenient. Like what I said earlier, do you really need to have a 2 full days training? Maybe yes, maybe no. To some companies, it's really difficult and expensive and costly to get all salespeople to come to one place. Or maybe it's better to have the salespeople in one region, the salespeople in East China come together, and then we have one for North region and one for South region. Maybe that's doable. It really depends on, do you really need to get everybody to come in for a 2-day session? Maybe yes, maybe no. Like what I mentioned, do you need to fly everyone to one location? Or can some of the training be done over either it's e-learning or over some of other methods like WeChat or some other technologies? This is something to be thought about. Can the sales training, if let's say you are having 2 sales meetings, as in every year you fly all the salespeople to your company for meetings twice a year. 每次的那个销售的这个年会，一年会有2次。 right? So, but every time you have a meeting, you have a limited amount of time. So instead of having 2 days per sales meeting, so maybe we split a 2-day training and make it a 1 day each for each sales meeting. So you come together for a week, do whatever your sales meeting that is required, and then have 1 day for training. And then you go back to your own places, and the next time you can actually have another part 2 of the same training in the next sales meeting. So we don't really need to plan it to be 2 full days. Sometimes it can be a series of half days. Sometimes it can be 1.5 day. Sometimes it can be from the afternoon to the night, and so on. So it can be flexible, right? And the last thing is training doesn't need to be something like this. I mean, this morning, because we are way short of time, we want to have make sure that we share enough things with everybody else. So it's more like me talking to you. In a sales training, we like to have a lot of role plays, right? The sales is a skill. Skills need practice, and we have role plays. So that's for sure. We can have discussion. We can have games. We have different games that help salespeople to be able to negotiate better or build trust better with customers. We can have simulations, simulations for salespeople. So those are the things that can be infused in different training to get the desired effort. In terms of simulations, there's another kind of simulation. Most of the time we think of simulations is the board game simulation. 一般说模拟都会想到沙盘的模拟。There's another kind of simulation is what we call as real people simulation. So we actually for example, we have a negotiation simulation. So instead of having a role play between 2 trainees, we send in external people to be the customer, right? And not only that, there are specific role play scenarios, simulation scenario, where the customer will have a long list of requirements. The salespeople will have a shorter list of what you need to do with the customer. The salesperson will need to first go to the customer, gather needs first, find out what the customer wants, then go back to their own respective groups and come up with a solution and then sell to the customer. So you actually role play twice. And whoever is role playing the role of the customer will also act as an observer to take down what are some of the things that a salesperson is doing good, what are some of the things that they are doing that needs to be improved, and so on. So you have an evaluator in that sense. And based on that, it's more, in a way, we want to make it as realistic as possible, and we simulate as close to a real life situation as much as possible. So we have that kind of simulation as well. 比如真人这个模拟，就按找一个外部人员，有具体的客户的需求，有具体的销售需求，然后做2轮的一个演练，然后还有一些就是具体的一些评估。So these are things that we do. And all of this, if you want to do any activity, one of the key things that any trainer needs to do is you must have debrief. 你要做活动，肯定要有点评。An activity without debriefing means that you're only doing the activity for fun and fun only. Right? You need to learn from the activity. So it's either the trainer observes something and the trainer tells everybody, or everybody did activity and observed something, felt something, and they give their feedback. In either way, we need to have some level of debriefing so that it's just to reflect what we learned from whatever activities that we have. So you need debriefing. So these are some things to make it fun, engaging, make sure that everybody is involved in training. Now, case number 3. You are in charge of arranging of a series of sales training for your company's 900 sales staff. Assuming that it's a huge company, got 900 sales staff. I mean, maybe not 900, more realistic, 90 sales staff, right? The objective is to learn new ways to sell in turbulent times. New ways to sell in turbulent times 是在动荡时期以新的销售方式来做销售。Since it's a large project, a few trainers are selected for a short listing. 项目比较大，所以可能有需要不同的一些培训师。Maybe maybe it's not just for China. Maybe it's for the whole Asia Pacific, and there's 900 of them. and you need a few trainers, not just one. So a few trainers. So these are the 4 trainers that has been shortlisted. One, John is a retired veteran salesperson in our industry. 同行的那个老销售，现在来做销售培训师。Young sir who is a lively trainer who speaks with a strange accent， 很活跃，但是口音有点怪，这个比较偏远地区的口音。to the well-known trainer that is booked to the brim. This is well-known and very busy. 这个知名度很高的销售培训师，但是呢，这个很忙，就是这个档期比较难找。and Lao Li, not really an exciting trainer, but spends a lot of effort designing great training materials, including case studies. So you've got four people to choose in a different combination. So the question here is, it's not about who you will choose, but who you will not choose. Assuming out of the 4, you just need 3, right? Which one of these would you not choose? And again, this is just to it's just an exercise just to think about different angles. So there may be no right or wrong answer. It's just about how you think about things. 不一定我们这边问这个提问，只是说我们希望从不同角度去看这个培训师的筛选，并不代表有一个绝对的正确或者不正确的答案，只是不同人有不同观点。Right. So out of this 4, which one would you not choose to be your trainer?
The third one.
The
He's
third
only
one.
famous for being famous.
Okay, why?
He's only famous for being famous. So
Okay, it's being famous, okay. That's
he
one
has
way to look at it.
no skills, at least in this description.
Okay, right. Well,
Depends.
yeah, it all depends, exactly.
Number 1,
Yes.
for example, if my industry is very good rotation, a veteran can be absolutely obsolete in few years. Okay?
Sure.
Then, as you said, the number 3, I don't like it very much because what I want is someone to dedicate time to my thing, and
Yes.
then if he is too busy, he will do the thing and goodbye.
Yeah.
Lao Li is someone that you don't necessarily need to be in the training because she can prepare the things in the background. I mean, and
Sure.
don't need to be there
Sure.
because materials and everything you don't need really input. And the second one with the strange accent, you know what, I am Spanish and I have difficulties to communicate what I want, and then sometimes it's losing time.
Sure.
Because the people cannot understand it. Okay? Depends.
Yeah, it could be. There are different weaknesses in different of these trainers, and really depends on how you look at things. Now, the first one, most people will say, okay, you are same industry, you have many years in our industry, we definitely want to put the first one as the first choice, right? Conventional thinking, the thing that 第一位肯定是首选。But what you're thinking of is your objective, 你的那个培训目的 is to learn new ways to sell in turbulent times. So someone who is very experienced in your industry may not have the exposure of selling in a different environment. 他可能是这个行业很资深的一个曾经很资深的一个销售。但对于现在目前的一些变化，可能不是很了解。So it may not be the case. And sometimes what we found is let's not talk about training itself. Just talk about sales department. And we found that sometimes the older salespeople who used to deliver very good sales results tend to be the ones that are the most difficult to change their behavior. 很多时候老销售最难改变。They're used to a certain thing and they're used to doing something that gives them a good result. But when the market changes, when the business goals changes and they need to change, sometimes it's the older salespeople that we find it the hardest to change their behavior. It's not to do that. Sometimes it's because they feel that they are experienced, they are more senior in a sales organization. 就是他那个论资排辈比较老， 所以就不愿做改变。那 they feel they're more senior, and as a result, they don't feel like they need to change. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes it's they're nice people. They are receptive to new ideas, but they are so used to their old habits that unless they are frequently reminded, otherwise it's hard for them to change. 有些时候是可能有些销售就觉得论资排辈自己比较老，这个什么辈分比较老，不愿改变。有些时候是愿意改变，但是已经习惯了旧的做法，因此没那么容易改变。And so same thing as well. I mean, if you are looking at a retired veteran, and you want that person to adapt to new ways of selling, may not be as easy. So I wouldn't say we will not choose John. It's just that it will be a concern. 是一个顾虑，不是说因为他这样子我们就不选他，但是可能是一个顾虑。Again, a lively trainer who speaks in a strange accent. Some people like it, some people refuse to accept that. Well-known trainer that's booked to the brim. The thing about well-known trainer is not so much about him being famous for being famous. 不是因为他知名度为了知名度高而知名度高。The key thing is he's booked to the brim. 他没时间。So if you need to do some customization, if you need to do some time spent with a sales manager or salespeople to have simple question and answer to understand the whole situation, if you need that person to come up with case studies, this person is much less likely to help you with additional work. And of course, last one, not really exciting trainer, but you can get good case studies. So again, even if you want to have this Laoli to deliver training, the next question to think about is, do you really need to have really exciting training? Unless you're in insurance, unless you're in direct selling, maybe you need to have someone very, very lively. Some training may not be that lively, but may require the salesperson to do a lot of thinking. 有些销售培训是很活跃，很多那个演练，很多点评。Right? A lot of some sales training is lively, role plays, debrief, and make it very lively. Some training like key accounts management, 大客户管理, there's a lot of customer analysis. When we do key accounts training, we are actually analyzing customers. 在做大客户管理的时候，会做很多的一些分析。So the training is not the typical exciting, lively sales training. It's a kind of you sit down, go through case studies, go through in detail, figure out what the customers are thinking, who do we need to approach in the customers group so that we can get a better result and so on. So maybe that kind of training we can use Laoli. And for the role plays and exciting training, we can use some other trainers and so on. So it's a matter of how you want to mix different trainers for different needs. And this goes on to what we do generally for hiring training. When we do hiring people, 如果我们在做招聘的培训、面试的培训，what we do is we're going to hire someone, whether you want to hire a sales trainer for 2 days training, or you want to hire anyone to work full time in your company. There are usually two kinds of criteria. One kind is called eligibility, which goes into what are your qualifications, what are your experience, do you have good references, do you have good track record, right? So that's one area of requirement. The other area of requirement is what we call suitability, which means do you have the right attitude? Do you as an employee, are you able to learn new things? Are you versatile as in flexible? Can you fit into this current role? Can you fit into the company culture? And the list goes on. So this is two criteria. Now again, put aside sales training and sales trainer. If you are hiring a full-time staff, 如果你是在做正式的一些招聘, which criteria will be more important to hiring success? Eligibility or suitability? 如果你是真的做这个招聘，招一个针对一个员工，哪一方面的一个招聘的一些要求会比较关键？是合格度还是合适度？为什么合适？Why？
如果要太好的话，留不住。
这方面合格度吗？还是？
我是说合适度。
合适度 ，OK。Oh yeah, yeah, because if someone is very highly skilled, they may not find the job challenging, so they may leave. If the eligibility is not high enough, then they can't do the job. So the differentiating criteria is going to be more or less here. From past research, we found that the reason that you got people leaving the job within 18 months, you hire someone, and the person leaves within 18 months, it's called a hiring failure. 怎么样做呢？算作那个招聘失败。如果你招一个人，这个人18个月内要么离职，要么就是他没办法达到预期的那个期望，就叫招聘失败。What is called hiring failure is within 18 months of hiring that person, if that person leaves within 18 months, or within 18 months that person is still not able to perform to expectation, that is called a hiring failure. And something like 80% of all hiring failures, it's a result of suitability. Only 20% or so, less than 20% is a result of eligibility. So it's the same thing that we apply for looking at the right sales trainer. Maybe the sales trainer doesn't have the right track records, qualifications. It's not really up to your expectations. Not to say that they really fall short, but they are not perfect. But if they are able to provide suitable fit, good attitude, flexible, able to come up with good case studies, maybe that is what we call a surprise fit. This is suitable, not exactly eligible. There's some things that are not a right fit. Maybe that person is not from your industry, right? Maybe that person didn't really have that many long years of sales experience, right? Maybe that person was a salesperson but not a sales manager, and so on. So it's not really ideal in terms of skills, but that person is able to customize your needs, cater to your needs, be attentive, then that may be a surprise fit. Now, why don't we go for the ideal fit? 为什么不去找就是找一个销售培训师，非常合格也非常合适 ？Why not? The answer is you ask your finance department. 因为看你非常合格、非常合适就非常贵 ，right? So you'll find, yes, you can find that it'll be fantastic, and either it's really hard to find, and you find them since they're so hard to find, you may not actually get the right person at the right date for the training, or they're so hard to find, they may be over your budget. So it's a matter of having a balance. It's a matter of what kind of compromise you want to have, and generally we'll say that someone who is more suitable will be more important than someone who is eligible. The worst thing to have is someone who is very eligible, but is not willing to cater to your needs, not willing to listen to talk to your sales managers and salespeople, not willing to customize anything to make sure that the sales training is working for you. So that's even worse. We'd rather focus on the right-hand side when you're selecting sales trainers. So when you get the right trainers, make a list of what needs to be done in the training. Based on the behaviors that you want to be changed for your trainees, what are some of the key things that you will need to deliver for the training? Now, sometimes the list can be very long. Right? What do we need to train our salespeople in? Everything. 我们需要就是改善我们销售人员什么哪方面，所有方面都需要改善。Everything, right? So the list can be a long list. So you may need to prioritize the deliverables. Maybe, well, you want to do everything. It cannot be done in one sales session, or one training session. So it may be done like over 5 or 6 different sales training over 5 or 6 years. So what will be the most important ones that we need to address first? We put those into the first training. And then in terms of prioritize, sometimes it really depends on how technical you want to go. Sometimes we even formulate a score sheet. You got a lot of deliverables. You want to have a different scoring for the deliverables. 你有这些方面你需要达到，那你是不是要做一个权重打分？有些比较重要的，有些比较次要的。Right, and decide what skills and attributes that are required to deliver those deliverables. Again, specifically what behaviors needs to be changed, what skills we need to learn. So this is something that we need to have a set of and then match it to the trainer. Can the trainer deliver what you want to do in terms of the delivery? Okay, so this is things to think about. And if you want to ensure post-training performance, obviously, if you're selling industrial products, 如果你是在销售那个工业品 your sales cycle is anywhere between 6 months to 6 years. 那个销售工业品的销售周期，从你见客户到你成交，大概是6个月到6年的时间。It's a long time, right? So you want to see improvements in sales results. Maybe it's you only see it in 6 months' time. So and by then it'll be too late. So what we want to do is maybe we can insert different milestones. So in order for you to get better sales, maybe you need to meet more customers. And what we can do is, okay, so after the sales training, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, is this salesperson seeing more customers? Right? Can they get the appointments on the phone? Can they go see the customers in a meaningful way? Right? So this is something we can insert the first milestone first. Then the second milestone can be after they're able to see new customers. 一个不同的里程碑，第一个是你先找更多客户，然后找完更多客户，下一步 the next thing is, can that salesperson ask the right questions and gather the right needs? Be assertive in seeing customers. 就这个销售见了一些新客户，他是不是能够问询正确的一些提问，找到有价值的一些信息？ That can be the second milestone, right? So we measure that and then see that if do we see some level of improvements again, depending on the kind of resources. It doesn't mean that for all this measurement you need to tabulate them into an Excel sheet and crunch numbers and submit for the CEO's approval. You don't have to do that. What you can do is generally, do you observe that there are some changes in the salespeople generally? It really depends on how much resources you want to commit in measuring the milestones. If you don't have a lot of resources, just can be a general observation. Do you see changes in different steps? So have milestones and you track them based on different milestones that hopefully result in a good sales result. Engage the assistance of sales managers. Don't, as training managers, as HR managers, don't do things just on their own. You need the sales manager to help you to do the monitoring. The sales managers work more closely with the salespeople. Same thing as any other kinds of training. If you are delivering training for other kinds of people, other than salespeople, it's also best to work with the department managers, functional managers. 如果你是在实施其他方面的培训，不仅是销售培训，如果你能够就是参与部门经理，就是学员的经理、上司、老板，那你这个面对老板跟上下级的合作会更多，老板能够更加去方便去监督，去给予一些评论，或者是给予一些指导。And eventually, how you measure ROI is after 6 months, 6 years, or 1 year. Is there changes in the sales performance? Do you see changes in the sales staff actually more settled in? There are some studies that say that companies that provide sales training or good sales training, not just normal sales training, but sales training that actually help the salesperson to sell better, actually experience better sales staff retention. 那些企业如果它的那个销售培训确实能够帮助销售人员解决他销售方面的一些问题，他的那个销售人员的这个留职率会提高。And the reason is very simple. The reason is that if you put a salesperson out there without giving any kind of training or meaningful training, that salesperson is going to face a lot of rejection. That salesperson will find that whatever he wants to do, nothing can be done. And then there is a lot of pressure from the top to meet targets. And after some time, they find that it's hopeless. Whatever they do, they cannot get result, they don't get support, and they leave. But it's natural. So if they find that a company is doing something, whatever it is, to just give them a little bit of support, it's more likely that they tend to stay a little bit longer. So that's there are some studies that talks about that. And preferably over time, you should see that you actually spend less on sales training and get a better results. Why less on sales training? Assuming that your salespeople are more or less they are centered in some basic skills, they only need to refine some advanced skills, and you actually need to spend less training hours on the salespeople. Right? When you have salespeople who needs more training, then maybe you need to spend more training hours, more effort on that. Secondly, is also if all salespeople can do something to help train, coach new salespeople, then you can also end up with spending less on sales training and get better results. Right? How do you know you learn something? 你怎么知道你某些方面已经真的学到？One way of knowing how you learn that you really learn something is that you teach someone what you learn. Right? So in some companies, what they do is after the training, you get whoever who attended training to teach those who did not get to learn, participate in the training. That is not to say that those who did not attend the training, they don't need training. But they definitely can get more help if those who went through the training and teach those who did not go through the training. 不是说那些没参加这个培训，他们就不用培训。但是如果有参加培训的去教那些没参加培训的，那些没参加培训，他也能够受益。You will have better knowledge, and also it helps those who have attended training to really, when you go to a training, it's more like you are listening. But if you want to tell whatever you learn to someone else, it makes you want to reflect on what you learn and think through how you want to articulate it. Right? So it actually reinforces training. So hopefully over time it actually makes you spend less on sales training and get better results. Right, so questions. By the way, this is our everything is on WeChat today. So this is our subscription to the Weixin, 那个订阅号. So if you want, you can scan it, then we can send a PDF over to you. Questions? Anything about whether you're a sales manager, whether you're a training manager, if you need to get better results from your people? Questions or comments? Yes.
For the suitability you mentioned, but I'm afraid it's difficult to identify those qualities.
Right. Okay. In terms of suitability, if you are just looking for a sales trainer, so besides the usual hard skills that you want to have in a sales trainer, things like how many years of experience as sales and as sales trainer, industry relevance, and so on, this could be important, and you may want to list them. Besides this criteria, what else do you need the sales trainer to do or to have in order to have an effective sales training? Things like, do you need the sales trainer to be willing to sit down with you and spend more time and to understand your current situation? Maybe. So this is something what we call suitability criteria. It's got less to do with experience, more to do with willingness to do something a little bit different. Maybe what we can do is, instead of just looking at suitability as a big concept, sometimes we just say attitude. By attitude, the simple thing is that basically it's just a positive attitude or a negative attitude. 积极态度或者消极态度. Right? And for positive attitude, what we usually mean is that if you have a challenge that you need to resolve and give it to the sales trainer, does the sales trainer say, just tell you that I don't do this, this cannot be done, this will be an extra charge, and so on? Or the sales trainer will explore different alternatives with you. Even if something cannot be done, but maybe part of it can be done。可能你要求可能过高，或者真的是没办法去完成，但是可能局部可以完成。Not the entire problem or the entire objective can be achieved, but maybe part of it. So is a sales trainer willing to explore with you what are some of the alternatives, what are things that can be done so that we can at least have different ways of reaching different expectations. So this is the kind of attitude that we are looking for, right? Two is also when selecting sales trainers is this is a bit harder to quantify. It's a matter of, can the salesperson show an understanding of your situation? It's not about an understanding of your industry, but an understanding of your situation. Things like if you were to say, okay, this is what happened to our salespeople. They see customers, and the customers like our products, but eventually don't buy. Okay, this is a situation. So can the sales trainer tell you that, okay, this is something that we have observed in other sales team, this is what happens, and this is what you need to do about it. This is some of the cases that we can share. We can also use some of your own internal cases, and we can tell you usually this is what happens in that situation. So it's a kind of can the salesperson, can a sales trainer actually relate to some of the challenges, some of the problems that you tell him or her. Right, so these are two additional criteria that usually makes or break the session. And of course, it also depends on your kinds of salespeople. Some salespeople are nicer, some salespeople are not so nice. 有些销售人员比较好搞，有些销售人员比较刁。Some salespeople, you put in any trainer, even if it's a boring trainer, but skillful, but like what we mentioned earlier on, someone who knows what he's talking about, but not really an exciting trainer. Some salespeople can go through with that, can understand it and go through. Some salespeople in a training will basically answer their phones every 5 minutes, will send texts while the training is going on. And so on. So you probably will need someone who, one, maybe be a little bit more exciting, more lively. Two, maybe a little bit more assertive in controlling some of the rules in the room. Right. So again, it really depends on the salespeople's profile and what kind of trainer will be more suited for that. Some participants is like. It's the reverse. They want a trainer to be very nice. Some salespeople has got very big and fragile egos. 有些销售人的那个自尊心比较强，也比较脆弱。So they need a trainer to be nice rather than challenging. Right. So again, these are some of the different consideration of different profiles, whether it's from trainees, from the needs, from a trainer who is able to give further insights about what's going on. Other questions? Yes.
I want to ask one question. So from what you said today, my understanding is that, say, I'm looking for a training for my people. I talk with the trainer, I align with him what are our business objectives, this is what we want the people to achieve, these are some of the problems that we observe. We analyze it, he designed a program for us. From that on, you would say, it's a good training, let's go ahead. Or is there anything else that we have to pay attention? Because I remember all these very detailed things, like making sure that we are assessing the learning, that we are measuring the results, of course. But from the program itself, is there anything else that we should pay attention to?
Right. Sometimes, again, depending on different trainers and different ways of doing things. One is when you talk to a trainer, do you have the feeling that the trainer or the training company is being responsive? So it may not be all the time that you'll be communicating with the real trainer. Sometimes you get to go to that. Sometimes you talk to someone else in the training company. So do you get a feeling that they are responsive to your needs and they are really paying attention to some of the behaviors that you want to change? So it's a matter of, you can call it chemistry, you can call it rapport, but do you feel that they are responsive to the certain needs that you have? Right? So that's one part. The other thing is that depending on a certain practice, you can ask for parts of the training materials that they can share with you. So let's say, usually if you ask for the entire PPT or the entire training materials, then some training companies or trainers will say, no, this is confidential, it's intellectual property, and they may not willing to share the whole thing. So if you say, okay, let's just do one part. Let's say handling objections or asking questions on the part. How do you conduct the training? Can we see the materials, or can you just run through with us normally for this particular module? How do you do the training? Right, and that's something that really fits into your expectations, or is it something that's more or less you can accept? That's a two. And of course, you can ask either. Some companies ask for demo in a company. Some trainers are less willing to do a demo in a sense that unless it's really in the final stages of the discussion, then we do a demo. Otherwise, a lot of trainers tend to be less willing to spend time to just do a demo. Another way of doing kind of a compromise is there are previous training videos, which videos these days is easier to get in. So are there videos that you can view the trainer in action. And of course, if the trainer is doing a session like this, informal session, whether it's breakfast or afternoon session, can you request to sit in? Just have a feel of how the trainer does on stage, and is that the trainer, the kind of profile that can handle your group of participants? So these are some of the things that you can do to develop in different ways. The kind of sitting in is that if you and a trainer belong to the same city, it's a lot easier, right? If you are from Beijing, from Guangzhou, or some other places, then most of the time probably you can only rely on videos. Just have a look of how the trainer does the usual training. We have just based on in terms of demos and in-depth discussion, we have actually been asked by clients who actually paid us to fly to Beijing to do very in-depth interviewing of the salespeople, and then on the spot telling them based on the standard materials what to change, what not to change, how to tweak it. So they actually pay us to fly up to Beijing for 2 days, not just paying for just accommodations and paying some level of fees, just to do on the spot some level of customization and interviews for them. So again, it's really depends on how in depth you want to go. Further things. Anyone tried using, has compared between an international branded sales program and also a locally created sales program？ 那就是都用过，就是国际品牌的销售培训，也同时用过国内本土的一些销售培训，然后有做这样对比。I mean, you have a comparison. Anyone has that? If you use an international branded material, usually you have the material will have a very well structured, right? The flow of the training usually it's there, has been done many times. So you can have quality assurance in terms of the materials is well constructed. You cover a good range of angles for the training. 就是它那个结构，它的那个顺序， 他的那个观点一般都是比较成熟的，比较那个全方位都能照顾到。That's a good thing. The bad thing about that is two. One is price. International programs usually tend to charge by per head. 按人头算，不是按天算。So it's charged by per head, not per day. Two is international programs. 相反鼓励。International programs number two is if you want to do any customization, it's going to be very expensive. 所以你要做任何的一些定制化，包括我们说的一些案例的定制化。You're going to have customized case studies. It's going to be more expensive. So if you want a company that your HQ, 你的国外总部 has already identified an international vendor, so you have to use an international branded training program. What you can do is ask to speak to the trainer. The program is still the same. Talk to the trainer, and you probably still can have some leeway of choosing the trainers. So they may not only have just one trainer, you can have 2 or different 3 trainers for you to choose from, and at the very least, even if you cannot observe the trainer in action, at the very least you can ask to speak to the trainer and ask, see which ones are more responsive to your needs. Right? Number 2 is, let's say if you have international programs, you want to customize case studies, they charge a lot of money, and you don't have the kind of budget, you're not spending the kind of money. What you can do is internally create your own case. And then ask the trainer to say that, no, when you're doing role plays and you're doing some techniques, whether it's questioning skills, objections handling, presenting a solution, and or whatever it is, these are the various cases. Can we use our case in place of those cases? Right? So something little thing can do that. Because as a salespeople, what are the challenges you face? Tell us a story. And based on the story, just come up with a certain scenario and give it to the trainer and say that, can you use this in place of whatever is your standardized material? So these are little things you can do at no additional cost. Right? And the moment you create one case, usually you can use the same case again and again. Different batches of salespeople can use the same case. 一个案例，如果你内部有了一个案例，通常这个案例就是每一期的那个培训都能使用。So that's just some sort of things that you can get better results without paying extra money. Further questions? Anyone has got issues about training budget or sales training budget? How do you plan sales training budget? 销售培训的预算应该怎么去整，怎么去申请这个预算？ Because sales training budget can be a little bit different from the usual training budget. The sales training budget, like what it was mentioned here, like Emilio mentioned here, is we would like to see eventually improvements in sales performance. So you can actually use your annual sales targets as a benchmark of your sales training budget. So let's say you have just for simple numbers, right? You make 10 million RMB sales last year. This year, the target is 12 million. So the increase is 2 million, right? So that is the target you want to have this year. And to meet the target, maybe we need to do things a little bit differently so that we can meet the higher targets. So in order to reach the 2 million additional sales target, out of that 2 million, how much are you willing to spend on sales training? Now, that kind of budget, you got to think about not just the training costs. You may also need to think about the opportunity costs, because you're having salespeople not doing work. 你的销售人员他不是在去做销售，他是来做培训，他没去找客户。So 2 days or around that kind of time commitment, not doing work, not doing sales, coming for training, there's a level of opportunity cost. So there's the cost of the trainer, the cost of the venue, some level of opportunity cost. So that gives you a picture of what could be the total cost for the sales training. And if your increase in target for this year round is going to be 2 million, how much are you willing to invest so that you can reach the 2 million increase in your sales target? So that could be a way of trying to get or trying to justify your sales training budget.
think the problem is if our target is 12 million, with the sales training, how much more than 12 million are we gonna get? So how you measure the ROI of that sales training and how you prove that it's
Sure.
really going to change? Because the 12 million is already
Sure,
targeted without the
sure,
sales
sure,
training.
sure,
It should be on top of that.
Sure. So some bosses will want to achieve more and say that no, our target is 12 million. With sales training, we want to have 14 million, right? So, so you add more to that. Again, it's about how is that realistic with regards to your market situation. Right, so it's 40 million realistically achievable with the current market. Sometimes it's not just the effort of the salespeople that you achieve higher targets. You got to look into, is the market conditions good enough for us to have that higher levels of what we call sales targets. So it's a matter of balancing that. Now, if you want to track sales performance through the training, again, we got to look into, okay, so if we want to really track it, how long is our typical sales cycle? Right? So if you need to take 6 months to a year to close a sale, so after training, are we able to track 6 months or 1 year post training and like what mentioned here, insert a different milestones to track the results? So if that is the case, can we get the cooperation of the entire sales department, from sales managers, sales directors? Are they able to insert the different milestones? Are they able to help us with monitoring and guiding and giving feedback on the various milestones so that things are being done in place for the next 6 months to 12 months? So again, it's you know, if you are looking at the training itself, the sales training is not just the responsibility of the trainer, it's not just the responsibility of the training department, it's not just the responsibility of the salespeople, it's the responsibility of everybody. Right? You need to involve the salespeople who are willing to practice what they learn. You need the help of the sales managers to monitor and give guidance, give coaching. You need the help of the training department and to get a good sales trainer. So it's really a team effort. Yeah.
So just going through that discussion, on the example when you have the long sales cycle, half a year, measuring the results after half a year, and saying that this is because we did the sales training is quite doubtful. So can you give some different examples of the or measures that you would take on a shorter period of time that you could really prove that, yeah, these are the results we got because we had this training? Something specific.
On a shorter period of time, probably you won't get to a sales figure, but you can see behavioral changes. So let's say customers who are always being rejected by salespeople who are always being rejected by customers. Now they're able to get better appointments with decision makers, or they're able to be more assertive and sell or at least propose higher value, higher end products. You may not be able to measure all the way up to see actual sales figures increase, but you can see observable changes in behavior. And that's an improvement in
behaviors and something you can measure.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we would like to have quantifiable results. It's just that in terms of sales, the quantified results may come later, right? If you want to have some companies will go by the number of appointments we make, right? The price points that we propose, the number of new products or high-end products that we propose. So these are still numbers. It's not a dollar number, but you can quantify it in different ways. May not be what the boss really like is in seeing sales figures go up, right? But it's something that we can observe. One way to shortcut all that is if there's a need to have better negotiations and negotiate for better prices, or there's a way to train salespeople not to drop price too readily. Then you can track, 1 month after training, 2 months after training, for the deals that we are currently discussing, are the price points actually, we don't say that it actually went up, but are we able to defend the price point better than previously? So let's say in the past, whatever price we go, we tend to have minimum 5% discount, or sometimes even 10% discount. And after the training, right now there's the maximum we have is 5% discount, and sometimes we only have 2% discount. So we were able to defend the price better. It may not have a huge impact on the sales targets. It will have some small percentage points in that, but what it shows is that you are selling at a better price. So that is something that can be implemented on existing deals to some extent. Yes.
I have a question. Normally, for a training company, when they finish delivering a training
Sure.
program, do they follow up with the whole process with the client, or so maybe you call
It really
the sales team?
Sure.
So, or maybe to write emails to those sales team, or to talk to them by phone
Sure.
later.
Sure. It really depends on what the company, the client, wants the trainer or training company to do. So, by and large, what we say is we always welcome questions and anything that you find difficult in doing sales. You're welcome to raise questions to the trainer. And to this date, we even give our Weixin to the participants if they have questions. And guess what? No one asks a question, right? So it requires something that is more proactive. So you can also ask a training company to be a bit more proactive if making use of Weixin and other online means to have either quarterly or monthly shorter sessions that we can have a chat, we can throw out a question, we can ask salespeople how they respond to a certain situation as a refresher. That can be done online or in a conference call. But assuming that your salespeople are all over China, all over everywhere, so it's more cost effective if you want to have trainers help to go online. So those kind of things can be arranged, and it really depends on how the company wants to institute that. Right? The obstacle, the difficulty of doing that has to do with the sales department being very busy. So it's not because companies don't want to do that. It's not because the training department do not want to do that. It's usually the sales department are so busy that they find it too much work to try to schedule additional follow-up sessions.
But what if they were given follow-ups like 5 minutes a day?
Yeah.
Or
This
some sort of
it can be arranged with the training company. It's likely to have some additional charges, but it's going to be marginal compared to the training program. May not be 5 minutes, can be a month. We set aside for at least half an hour, depending on how many people are joining in. And we can get everyone to tell a story of what they've done differently in the last 1 month. They can raise a certain difficulty, and the trainer can give suggestions on how to overcome those. And you can schedule it once a month, half an hour, 1 hour, or once quarterly, half an hour, 1 hour. That can be done online. Right, so that is doable, right? What we found, why most companies don't do that, even though it's available, training companies, trainers are willing to do that, is because the salespeople find that they are so busy in their day-to-day work that usually they'll do 1 follow-up session, and then that's it. Normally they don't do any follow-up, and usually if there is any follow-up, it's only 1 session and no more. Right, so it's it needs commitment. It needs it needs a lot of commitment from the company, especially the sales manager or sales director, to really push that. Right, so we're now 10 in the morning. So this is what we'll do. If you have further questions or further comments that you want to share with me, we can do it on a one-on-one basis. I think there's still more coffee and tea, and I think more croissants out there. If you haven't had your breakfast, the breakfast is a bit cold, but if you haven't had breakfast, please continue having your breakfast. There's still croissants and juices and coffee outside, and fruits, I think. So please continue on. Don't waste the food. 外面东西尽可能吃完。Okay, so and generally we used to do this events about once a month, but we got so busy that we probably can do breakfast meetings like once in 2 months. So we haven't decided what will be the topic and when it will be 2 months from now. But besides breakfast, because why we have breakfast is usually it's in English, and we like to target some of our 老外 customers. Usually 老外 tends to find it easier to wake up earlier in the morning. It's a happy thing, I think. It's a 老外thing. So in the afternoon we will have Chinese versions of the Shalom for Chinese employees. And of course, if you are a 老外 who understands Chinese, you're welcome as well. So for our next session, afternoon session in Chinese, it will be on what we call coaching skills for highly effective managers. So it's not about being a coach as a professional coach, but if you're a manager and you need to do coaching, whether it's sales managers, coaching skills for highly effective manager, we're having that on 24th April. I'm not the speaker. We have someone who was a hands-on HR who has done a lot of coaching for sales teams, different operational teams in different industries. So he'll be sharing with us on when to manage, as in give instructions, tell people what to do, when to coach, and how you balance that, how you actually get better results as a manager by coaching your team. Right? So that will be on 24th April. So if you have 2 to 5 p.m., I think you'll be in the same room. Right? So if that's something that's beneficial for your colleagues, let us know, and we'll have to see them. Right with that, thank you for your time, and please enjoy the coffee if you need to shoot a coffee. I will hope to see you again.